a place in the audio wasteland where music comes straight from the heart. MTV didn't make it for me. Worlds apart from that top 40 chart. Fed up with flash pots and lasers. Lip sync and losers only LA could find. I was resigned to go back to my vinyl. I was bereft, then I looked to the left. Oh, look to the left of your dial. There's world of music waiting that'll make it worth your while. There's blues and reggae, zydeco, Celtic salsa, bluegrass. Oh, look to the left of your dial. Here Pete and Woody, Bonnie Raitt, Queen Ida, Marsha Ball, Christine Lavin, Jerry Jeff, Muta Baruch and Taj Mahal. Look to the left of your dial, where the radio activity is also versatile. If Guns N' Roses leave you cold, make the move that'll stir your soul. Look to the left of your dial. Listener-sponsored stations count on you, not Arbitron. So when you push their buttons, you get radio that turns you on. It's Ward for me. Pittsburgh, WYEP. There's KPFA, KPFT. Motown's got WDHT, HYY and XPN. You can catch Gene Shea again and again. There's so much waiting for you. To the left of 92. In the bluegrass state, there's NKU. Pacifica Grove, the home of kazoo. Manhattan's got WBAI. Cedar Falls loves KUNI. KNON, KXCI. Hear what you're missing, give them a try. Ohio, Albany's got Jackie Alfred Show. There's KUT in Austin, so many to choose in Boston. Listeners, be wise, it'll open up your eyes when you look to the left, look to the left, look to the left of your dial.
So, are you turned on yet?
I love that song.
That was the late, great Ann Feeney.
That's great.
A definite friend of KMUD and friend of Southern Humboldt County.
And of community radio.
Yes, indeed.
Obviously.
Welcome, everybody, to this public affairs program. This is the KMUD Board of Directors show. I'm Andy Caffrey, also known as DJ Gandy, and a current member of the Board of Directors and treasurer for KMUD. And tonight we would like to introduce you to our interim station manager, Rich Culbertson.
Hello.
Hi, Rich.
How are you, Andy?
You will have a chance to call in and ask Rich questions about his background or what his vision for the next several months and years of KMUD is. And you can call at 707 area code 923-3911. That's 707-923-3911. How you doing, Rich?
I'm okay. I'm perpetually in a spin, but a good one.
Well, who
the
isn't?
Ones that don't make you throw up.
Yeah, crazy times, huh?
It's been a wild, I don't know, decade now. I was going to say month, year, but yeah, it's been getting here for a while, and now it's hopefully this is going to be the peaks of it, and it starts turning around, but.
So you're an optimist.
Yeah, no, but I play one on the radio.
Yeah, radio. You have a lot of experience with radio. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what got you interested in being a radio person and how you started off?
Well, those who have heard this story before, I apologize, but It starts because, like most things, when you're a teenager, somebody telling you what you do, you say, no way, not me, man. So in high school, they give you these tests every now and then that you're supposed to fill out all these forms, and at the end of it, it says, well, this is what you'd be good at. You're clearly aimed for law. You're clearly aimed to be an architect or a ditch digger, And I just thought the whole idea was stupid and whatever. So I tried to be as weird as possible. I like to be outdoors, but afraid of the outdoors, that kind of thing. And it worked in that there was about 3 of us at the end of everybody's pool that the principal or vice principal said, we don't know what to do with you people. You fit nothing. So we're sending you to the local AM radio station because why not? And I went in there and I looked at the ancient equipment there, which was used to announce the Blitz, I believe, last time it was used. I mean, it was old. And I thought, no way, I'm never going to be doing this. And then fast forward, here I'm now into over 35 years in the business. So it's weird how that turns. And it turned just because feeling like I needed to do something, I don't know what the issue of the day was back then. Let's see, mid-'80s. I'm sure it was Reagan something. And so walked into KPFA and said, how do I help? How do I work out? And became a volunteer, but very shortly was able to help them with some producing skills on producing a pledge drive because I had done some of that stuff in college and so forth. So that led into little visits at KCSM, kind of same thing, just kind of feeling it out. And then the kind of big change was when I moved up to Arcata. I had decided that living in the Bay Area most of all my life was great, but it'd be better to live in somewhere else and visit the Bay Area. So I came up to our beautiful northern Humboldt at the time and went into KHSU, ironically on the day they were inviting in new recruits, and said, hey, so what's the story? They said, well, nobody ever gets a job, so don't get that out of your head right now. But we'll sit down if you're good enough. We'll see about you having a training later. And I guess I hit it out of the ballpark on my first little cold read. And fast forward, things happened in 3 months, or not even 3 months, 90 days later, I was their operations chief. So it was a situation where people left, and I was anxious to know. I always have had that kind of curiosity of how things work. So it was perfect because it was tech, plus it was announcing and stuff.
So you mentioned the issue of the day. Did you come into radio as an activist-oriented person? Yeah,
pretty much. I mean, my activism was bent a little bit around political campaigns and so forth, and trying to do stuff locally. But yeah, certainly there were tons of issues. In fact, ironically, the last place I was at, I met actually it was a staff member at the time, and we both kind of looked at each other, and we realized that some 28, 30 years ago, we were both arrested at Diablo Canyon because that was a big issue for us at the time, and he happened to be down there, and we both remembered it because other celebrities were arrested, so they let us go right away. But yeah, so that activism has always been a part of it. I mean, I don't know what else community radio is to do but activism. And that doesn't necessarily mean protesting the government or something. It means activism. It means fun. It means pain. It means mourning. It means getting together and being joyful. It means constructing a community that everybody can succeed in. I mean, that's all part of activism. And so, I'm proud to say that's what brought me into the crazy world of community radio and of nonprofits. That's where these people come from. They're all a little cockeyed and say, well, why not? So I like the weirdos, so I went there.
Another part of that is giving people a voice. We have a lot of programming that is not focused on activism, although almost all of it, except I guess some of the music, is oriented towards some aspect of our community.
Right. But again, I would define that as you're actively engaging, at least in those people who are not necessarily being engaged with. And that's tremendously important. I'm sure, it's in every good community radio station's mission statement to speak to those who are not being spoken to. But there's a way to do that, and there's a way to do that. If you're just throwing, syndicated programming that's got this rubber stamp of native or indigenous or whatever it is, and you're thinking, good, mission accomplished, without really talking to those living the lives in this community, you're doing a disservice. And I think KMUD has been great over the years of never wanting to substitute just the patina of we're doing good with actually doing good. So
Oh, yeah. I mean, the reason I got involved in KMUD is I was doing Earth First activism, and this was doing so much to support getting the word out about the forests we're trying to save. I mean, it was an active tool of our campaign. And I think you can count hundreds of programs from just local homeless shelters or a fundraising event for the fire department on up to getting people organized to demonstrate with the rest of the nation.
Absolutely. And if I may jump way ahead in our interview for a second, because I know you're going to get there eventually, that's one reason I am optimistic, no joke aside, about our chances to recover through this financial disaster of the Trump years. And I'll just stop there. But I think we have a better shot than some because we haven't been dependent on people who come for the label of something else. And again, I'm talking with no knocking or disparagement to NPR. But when you're an NPR fan, you can be an NPR fan in San Francisco and get on a plane and wake up in New York and be still an NPR fan of the same program. Mm-hmm. You can't do that with KMUD or any other local community radio station. So it's got to be us alone that sells us. The problem when you're supporting a brand that is universal is you have no loyalty then to where you're hearing it. NPR sounds good in all of the different cities you hear it in. So, but it doesn't mean anything to them that it's given to them from KMUD, which is why it's not given to from KMUD. KMUD gives this area, this community, its broadcast, its voice all over the world. And if someone wants to know us, this is the place they would go. So that means we have a better story to tell our community and those around us why we need to be supported, because our roots started from seeds that were germinated in that activist world that this area proudly gave birth to, whether it was the timber wars and redwood summer or the camp stuff or whatever it was, whether it's just health programs, just emergency reporting of floods. All of that was so entwined, the roots are so entwined in each and every person in here, which is why you see names coming through as staff members, board members, programmers, staff members, because they're so tied together. So we have a better story to tell than trying to convince people who didn't really have us in their focus anyway why they need to come to us now and support us. What that does mean is that everybody who's hearing this, my voice, knows that they are the specific one person I'm speaking to, because it is that person's station. It is every person's station who makes use of us. And if you're listening to us, you're making use of us. And that's why, as I think one of our slogans will come up during membership, we've had your back, please have ours now, because we absolutely need, not out of desperation, but out of empowerment of this community to have that voice for all of us at a time we're being told by our national government to bleep up. And because I'm an FCC guy, I can't say the word, but they're giving us the middle finger and asking us to shut up and not be heard. And so now, more importantly, not just because, it's a good community station that plays great music, please keep us around. No, more out of anger than ever, you should be saying, no, you're insulting our community. You're insulting the people's lives who get saved in emergency reporting. So no, we're more than ever. If I have $2, I'm going to find a third and give that third dollar to. And unfortunately, that's why we have to keep coming to you. If you're a business, if you're a landowner in this area who comes for vacations or whatever, you are invested as well in this community. So please, we would love to hear from you as well. Maybe you're one of the few businesses or organizations that has grown with success over these odd times, because some, even the well-meaning ones, producers of water bottles, do really well in flooding areas, whether they mean to or not. So if you're someone who is getting that, please pay it back to the community right now. I'm not on pledge drive, but I am, because you hired me to help steer what is, I think, one of the most important boats in the sea. And the first thing we see is a leak. So my job is to get that fixed, and you can give me the glue to do it. Okay, I'm running out of metaphors on that, and I'll just leave it there. But I wanted to jump ahead, because that is the optimistic thing about it, is that we are a people-powered station.
Yes, and I think that makes it a fundamentally different project from NPR.
Yes.
I used to listen to NPR because it was better than all the commercial stuff. KCBS and all of the little, 30-second news clips, same kind of stuff that you get on national
Traffic
TV.
And weather together. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And but this has always been from the grassroots, built by people who came here to go back to the land, to start a whole new life, to create something. And this is one of the wonderful institutions. There are so many beginnings, Mathilde, the Redwood Playhouse,
right.
Well, formerly the credit union. And NPR still kind of pushes the interesting people kind of radio.
Right.
You know, the experts. It doesn't really encourage you to get involved, to do things with your neighbors, to try to brainstorm solutions to problems yourselves and not just look to the politicians for the ones that they, lay down for us.
They would object to me saying that they are a top-down kind of thing in that regard, because I think they feel like they're an even, not coming up, because they admit they've got access to things that the average person doesn't, but they're also not saying we're instructing you. But you are, because of how you present yourself. Again, I'm not knocking NPR. I think it's a fine organization for where it is. Again, like all of it, if you put it in its spot, then and you're a discerning consumer of this media, then more power to you, more power to them. It's not where I'm going to spend a lot of my time. I spend it in specific areas. Community radio does the most for me, and I think it does the most for the people living in that community. Granted, I'm not going to give you a debate on what's happening in Washington, but there are plenty of sources for that when you need that, including the one that you may also be listening to is the web. So we want to be there as that, stable for you. But yeah, check other things out. But when it comes down to it, it's those organizations don't struggle the way we do. I mean, literal transmitter tower sites that we pay huge amounts of money every month to pay for their ability to be on a tower. And if we can't pay that, obviously that affects our signal. That affects what we do. That affects our mission of getting emergency signal out. So equipment's hugely important. But if there's no one in the booth to broadcast it, still same position. If there's nobody in the news department to say, yeah, that's a real fire, not somebody blowing off firecrackers, still the same position. We can't do our mission. And if we don't have the money to fund all of that stuff, we can't do our mission. The community is what makes it possible to do the mission of serving the community.
Yes, and when it comes to this part of the country, this rural area that does not have so many options that you might have in Berkeley, for example, it's even more critical. KMUD does everything.
It does. And honestly, if I were an outside, books, numbers guy to come in and crunch, I'm going to save your station, one of the first things is that you got to get rid of half the diversity in here. And I don't mean of the people, but just you got to streamline it down to here's jazz, here's rock, here's, other music. You got to make it easy. Maybe somewhere that's true, but that would destroy the heart of what this place is. You might as well just paint it over with a white paint and say this is just another building now, with no more difference than any other place. So I would fight forever to oppose that kind of thinking, even if it means that we are taking a harder road, which we are, because we got to make sure that even those people who turn us off 80% of the time a day because they have a very specific thing they like and they don't like the others, they're still using us and they're still supporting us, and that's great. But that's why we're here, for just those people. Someone asked recently, recent community station nearby, when the budget came down for all of us, when we knew the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was going away and probably not coming back in any time soon, not enough to save anybody who's going to have to, go out in the ocean alone. Luckily, smart business management of KMUD gave us a little head above the water savings on that stuff, which is great. But, you blink an eye and that could be gone. I mean, it's $75 an hour to run this place. So, but some stations, they said, well, the first thing we got to do then is drop something that doesn't make us money but costs us money, and that was their news. But my retort to that is, I'm sorry, the last thing we cut is going to be news, when it's just one person with a flashlight up here doing the news, because there's no other purpose for us to be here. So all of the other stuff is useless if it's not doing its mission, which is to serve the community that asks for, hey, we want news. So it's not an option for us, which, again, puts us in a tougher position on the road we choose to go. But that's never been a problem for Southern Humboldters. Okay,
but as a music programmer myself, I know that there are some people who maybe, they got their families or they have their grow or whatever, and they don't really put a lot of their time. Maybe they put some of their cash into activism. Mm-hmm. So one of the litmus tests is music. Mm-hmm. Do you like the Grateful Dead, Fish, and reggae?
I don't want to say the perfect line that everyone says, which is so insincere, but in this slight sliver, it's kind of sincere that I like all music. Now, I mean that because I have an appreciation. Maybe that's a better word for what everybody does. I know I've been around musicians. I fooled with a few instruments that made fun of me. So I have a good gauge of what it takes, and I have a wide open ear of what I like, which ranges from reggae to hip-hop to rock to classical to jazz to fusion to blah, blah, whatever the latest new thing is. I found enjoyable stuff in all of that. That being said, I have a specific stuff that is my music. And yeah, I'm going to keep that a secret, but it includes some of those ones certainly from the 70s. I'm 62, so my music started. I had older brothers, and so my music started from the mid 60s all the way up into the mid 80s. That's kind of mine, and then after that began to somebody else must like this because it's not me. But again, still find stuff amazing, just all the time. My partner and I love to scroll around on the TV dials or the other places we would never go and never want to hear any of that, just to see every now and then. She also does it with the news with Fox, but that one I can't tolerate. But we kind of look around, and I can't tell you how often I hear, "Wow, that's something different." The wonderful thing about KMUD is I get that every day here. I'll hear music I know and love, and then what was that? That was really cool, and so. Again, that comes from the boiling of the mental state of the energy of this community. It's people like yourself, a programmer who comes with, do you like the Grateful Dead? But I know that's not your limit of you're not just playing Fish or Grateful Dead.
For me to like you have to like Captain Beefheart.
Oh, well, okay. We're a winner then.
Okay. Yeah. So I first met you when you were working sound for the Summer Arts Festival. Mm-hmm. And KMUD has all kinds of live musical events and gets involved in simulcasting from other places. So how do you feel regarding music programming for KMUD?
Well, I like what I hear. I like the intensity of how important the people who are playing it take it, which is some places you hear it's just like there's just literally spinning discs of some sort, and it's their music and they want you to hear it, but they're not really, hey, no, you got to hear this. You got to hear this. And I get that kind of energy from many different genres here. And it's also weaved into their own personal stories. I mean, when you hear Agnes and all of her history through stuff and then being able to play music and sound through it, it creates something that's very unique and very KMUD and very rich in its depth. So I love that part of it. As far as the events, I think it's absolutely critical that a station like this, any good community station, be dynamic and get out in the community. So if there's things that are happening in the backyard, they better be the one showing it off because it's our backyard and we want to take that lead. So I am in big favor of Reggae in the River, Summer Arts, those events that we really can make ourselves present and play a part in. That being said, with the budget we have right now, we have to really pick and choose which events are really feasible and which are just, they're a lot of goodwill, and goodwill goes a long way, but not to the bank. It doesn't make it all the way to the bank. So, there will be times that we're going to have to look at that no matter what, but even if things get even worse, then even more so. Again, I think it's important to do, and if there's a way to do it without spending money, I will always look at that because I think it's important to be out there and dynamic, even if it's a table, but even more so if you can have a mic set up and someone seeing you with a set of headphones and know, wow, there's a voice coming from right here at this event that's being broadcast, well, literally all over the world. So it's a cool thing, and I think it's something we need to show off when we can, but not to break the bank for it because it doesn't – even the best event doesn't turn as well as just a good membership drive that brings in everybody to the plate or a federal grant of 30% of our budget.
Yeah. Also, you have some very important skills for KMUD. Why don't you talk about how you first became acquainted with KMUD and how you first got involved in being part of the KMUD family here.
Yeah, sure. I mentioned earlier that I was the first big paid role was operations director, and when I found out what that was, that job, I thought, oh my God, I've hit heaven, because one of my long-standing hobbies, habits, annoyances, if you ask my dad, was trying to find out how everything works, including his watch and other things that didn't find out how they work again. But so I liked tech. I liked to understand what is it that makes my voice, go all over the place. But I also grew up listening to a lot of talk radio, AM talk radio in the Bay Area. At that time was pretty liberal, so you were hearing anti-war protests and draft numbers being. So I got an idea of what the voice on the radio was about, how important that was. Obviously, as I mentioned, the time I grew up was some of the greatest times for music ever. So you were hearing, who is this Pink Floyd? Who is that guy? And, your mind's blown. So all of that came around this one element of radio, and it's like, wow, that's something I could really enjoy. I'm trying to find out how it works. I'm trying to find out what it does. As time went on and I became more aware of the different things you can learn and people I could work with, I began to get into, let's train the voice a little better, because it is a performance, and I don't want to give the listeners a short shrift. If I'm mumbling my words and doing the fry and all that, it's not good. I don't like listening to it. So let's see, working on enunciatings and saying different rather than different, and all these things. So I got into and each step brought me to another element of it. Finally, training people on new equipment, because it was coming so fast with software changes and stuff. Again, I got to learn at the same time, because I go, well, this is the way it works. And I'm watching, hey, it did. Good. I was right about that. And I don't have to reveal I wasn't sure about that. But so it allowed me every aspect, from software to electronics to the personalities on the air to the content, making good public affairs programs, whether it was about environmental concerns I had, or at one point we had an LGBT show going to die because everybody left. We had everyone leave at one point. It's like, well, who's going to pick it up? And I was their engineer. So, all right, fine. I was new there. I had hardly any contacts, but it was an important show to get out there and keep the voice active. And so every aspect of radio, I love it all. The one I was afraid of was budgeting, and I had been involved in a couple of places when I first worked at KZYX over 17 years ago. When I first started there, we had no bookkeeper. We had nobody but me and a rather young but smart, brilliant actually, GM, and we did the books together and never had a problem with audits or anything, but that was a way different time. And so I am so grateful that we have a good board here, that we have a good financial manager here, that we have a staff that is dedicated to the mission, so that all of that is something that's doable rather than a pipe dream.
Well, there's a lot on your plate. Two of them, the big ones, are the funding cuts that are coming from, the people who are running and ruining this country. And the other is we have a lot of new staff.
Yes.
And a lot of the people who departed weren't able to do the kind of training that we all would have liked for them. So how are you taking that? That's always a hard thing. I was lucky enough to get a few weeks with the previous GM or SM as she was leaving, which helps. But I know a lot of people have not had that opportunity, and there's also changes to that position that didn't exist perhaps when when the previous person had it. So there's a lot they're going through that maybe even the staff is still learning. Well, what is that position now doing? So there's a lot of flux in there. The good news of that is that it gives us an opportunity while we're looking at this budget to say, all right, well, let's not go by any steadfast rules then. If it's all bubbling up in the air anyway, let's make sure when it comes back down, it's as efficient as possible. And if we can trim a little there, and so nobody's job gets endangered or some service that we're providing doesn't get hurt, let's do that. And so it's kind of good in the sense that everything's bubbling over to find out, okay, some people maybe it's time, maybe they want to move part of their job off to someone else who's coming up so that they can look somewhere else, and that would allow us to, make things a little more efficient. Maybe a contractor hours could be cut, whatever it takes to kind of tighten that stuff up. It's kind of good to have some transition. It's scary right now. I came in as a tech guy to help Simon kind of be able to
once and for all, not have to get the 2 a.m. calls. And that is still on the docket for me. That's something I agreed to him, and I'm going to keep going as part of the job. We're going to work out how that's going to work out, because it's obviously they're both demanding jobs. But it's important to have other people follow and know how this all works, because I love Simon. I hope he lives to 200 years old, but physics says that doesn't happen, and it's not going to happen to any of us. Everybody running the place, as I look across the table at my friend here, Andy, is a little gray in the tooth. So we need to get the young people in there. So turnover is good. Turnover adds new ideas, revives some old ideas maybe that we moved on to, and now it's under fresh eyes. And now it would work. So yeah, I think it's good. I think it can work itself out. It's going to be stressful as hell, but it can't get much worse, right?
Right. When you're at the bottom, all you can do is go up, right?
Knocking
or
wood.
Die, I
Right.
suppose. Well, there's also this whole new social media aspect of things. Before we get into that, I just want to mention you're listening to the KMUD Board of Directors show. I'm Andy Caffrey. I'm one of the board members and the KMUD treasurer, and we are here introducing you to our current interim station manager, Rich Culbertson. And if you would like to talk to Rich or ask him some questions or let him know what is important to you about the future of KMUD, you can give us a call at area code 707-923-3911. So we've been dealing with broadcasting over airwaves for a long time, but there's also the concept of narrowcasting, and then there's also all of these simulcasts that we can do using social media.
Right.
What's your vision for that, and how that might be able to expand either our involvement in the community, increase the number of voices that we can communicate over the air, and also support the station?
It's an amazing tool, a tool that has to be exploited. It does have a rabbit hole effect that you can crawl down into and get lost as not only a person but as an organization, and find that you've now become a programmer for a platform rather than what you do here. So I think it has to be handled well, but it has to be handled, and I think we really do need to turn up the notch on that, because the old adage about young people are on that. Well, that's true, but it's beyond that now. It's become so entwined in business and the way things work today that it's almost a demand, like, what, you're a business without a phone number? That was in the 70s. You'd have been out of business in 10 seconds. So now you're a business without a YouTube and a Instagram and all, because they're wanting to provide what their customers want. And their customers, as they get younger, they found this out in stark demonstration. The younger folks are just wanting what they want. And maybe that's not a whole lot different than what we wanted when we were saying no war and whatever, but their focuses are on different things. And one of them is they want, and I'm generalizing, of course, but all the information right there. They don't want to hear it from one side. They want to be able to choose the sources they have. They want to have all of that direct command. And when we're saying we'll provide it for you, they say, great. It's great that you can do that without really any wires to me or anything, just from the sky, basically. But I want more than that. So we can't provide it over the terrestrial airwaves. They can only do so much, but we can provide it in these other options, like whether it's web-based or apps or connections that we can use over the different platforms that keep our message going at all times in any way they want to receive it. Case in point, I went to a seminar in Berkeley, at UC Berkeley, a few years ago, and it was about the ability to do news gathering and story building with tools that are in everybody's pocket. And as they started this lecture, they sent two young college guys out, actually a pair of women and men out. And they each had, I don't know, iPhones, whatever, Android maybe. They went out. They said they'll be back at the end of the show to show you something. We had the lecture. They had a couple of video demonstrations. These kids came back. They went in a booth on either side of it. We're in there for another 20 minutes while the guy spoke, and then they came out with finished movies of the community they just went in, with storytelling, sound, audio, references to the homeless account that they went through, and what you can connect that to. Within 45 minutes, they had built this thing with just their phones that was something you could see at Sundance or someplace, as a documentary. And the way it was described is it was out of necessity. They can't just leave it alone if they say, oh, we got this one piece of information. There is a built-in younger need to say, I want confirmation, which is great. It's healthy. It's exciting to see, well, good. Maybe this is what's going to stop this churning, information factory that has been running over so many people. Maybe there's going to be a rebirth of questioning, well, I want to hear it a different way too. That also can backfire. There's some people say, well, yeah, the scientists say, vaccines are good, but I want to hear the other side. Well, there's that side too. But it does mean, I think, that they need a lot of presentations, a lot of sources to draw from, and we need to talk to them in all of those languages. Speaking of which, I think we also need to expand our non-English speaking sound on this station. I'd like to hear more Spanish speaking and maybe indigenous as well. I mean, I think we need to literally speak the language and use the platforms to do it.
So how do you think we should go about expanding that?
Okay. Well, that was all I had time for. No, it comes with recruitment. It comes with making sure that you're not saying, hey, come do a show. We want you to. No, it's, hey, here's an opening. You tell us what you want to do, what message you want to go out. And again, with that kind of really door-to-door recruitment, how do you do that with a staff that is way overworked and barely able to keep up with a huge volunteer base that's keeping them going now? I don't have a total answer other than what I hope to see an increase of esprit de corps and building of our KMUD family. That means the listeners, that means the board and management and all those folks, the staff, and, of course, mostly the programmers, past and present, that can, again, kind of build this – I'm looking at it like a beehive of energy that can then suck in people who might go, well, I listen to KMUD, but, boy, right now there's some buzzing excitement going on over there. And so I kind of think that they might be somebody that could now finally speak our voice about our issue. And they make that cross line over and say, I think you work on the board, Andy. Do you know anything about this station? And those conversations is how it starts.
Okay, I think we have a caller.
Yes, great. Keeps me to shut up finally.
Good evening, caller. You're on the air. We can hear you.
Okay. Let's see. Just want to make a couple comments. I'll try and say as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Let's see. First of all, regarding NPR and the world, I used to listen to them until, I guess, the lead up to the invasion of Iraq and then the coup in Haiti. And at that point, it was just blatant that they were just lying to us all the time. And then they've been giving us all sorts of anti-Palestinian, pro-Israeli propaganda for decades. Just the way they talk. They would always talk about the Palestinians as being extremists and that sort of stuff. So you probably remember that.
Of course.
And then the other issue is I've for years been asking you guys to put law and disorder and letters and politics on at a reasonable hour, so those of us who don't have internet can hear that and without staying up all night. And then I've been asking you guys to do Le Show, which he covers the nuclear issues and all kinds of stuff, and it's a really good show. It used to be on KHSU. And my general feeling is the news programs are much more important than the music, because everybody's got music. And, you can listen to an AM station and hear music that's not so bad, right? But the news you just can't get anywhere else. And if you don't have a good internet, then you can't get that. And that's what just comes to my mind right now.
Well, are you aware of our audio archive, that you can listen to?
Yeah, I don't have internet, though.
Oh, okay.
And there are a lot of people, I think, that they're off the grid. And then there are a lot of people who commute in their cars. I mean, the good time to have the news, of course, is like 5 to 6. You have the stuff there. People are in their cars cruising around. So.
Well, I think I'm just guessing actually that those two shows you mentioned probably have websites.
Yeah. Well, if you have the internet, then you don't need KMUD. But
so you never have access to the internet.
I can listen to KPFA. I mean, I grew up in the Bay Area, so I grew up listening to KPFA. So if I had internet, and I'd probably be donating to KPFA.
Yeah.
But I know you've got a lot of people who are off the grid, don't have internet, and then you got all the people cruising around in their cars. and then you have a couple, people like me who just don't have the time and the money right now to throw it and get all that high-tech stuff. So,
no, I get it, and I agree with almost everything you said. I would add that music isn't just music in that our folks put it together in their own unique way, and it's a one-shot deal. You're only going to hear it once. Yeah, right. No, I know you.
Anyway, thanks, you guys.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. Yeah, I know. I think you've mentioned to us that you would like to replace some of the pre-recorded shows that are in the middle of the night with actual live, local people produced shows.
Well, yes. I mean, let me preface it by saying I am not going to interfere with the program director's program directing. That is their job. And my thing is not to say, hey, I prefer, why don't we put some Limbaugh on? That's not my role as a station manager. That being said, I think anytime you have live humans, it adds a serious element to the station. If it's something that is doable for staff management or, of the program director or however that wants to work, then sure. I mean, the syndicated stuff. I've been around this, community radio and public radio long enough that most of that stuff is recycled through me enough that I'm kind of done with that. I'm over it. That's my own personal thing. There are people who never have heard of some of those shows and they're catching it for the first time. So great. But having more live human beings that are actually, exchanging with the other people that are up at that's a unique group of people, and I've been one of those that's up at 3 a.m. and I've talked to people who I thought was one person on the internet and found out no, that's what they were using to broadcast it to their factory of 200 people who were sitting there making fairings for us and listening to our station. So it was like, whoa. All of a sudden I realized I had 200 more people listening to my nonsense. It's like, oh, I better play a good song then.
Yeah. I think what I've heard recently is that it's very hard to get a show before late night right now. Mm-hmm. So it's very unlikely
just because of lack of openings. People have
yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So it's very unlikely that any of those syndicated programs are going to be broadcast during the day because it would require bumping other programs. It's just there's only so much time.
Well, you mentioned about technology. There's a perfect example of where we can please everybody on that situation because we can, say we want to air the syndicated or vice versa, and we can put on the web, if you choose to click here and listen to something else, we have that option for you as well right here. Again, you do need the internet for that, but yeah.
Yeah. Got another caller. Caller, how are you?
Hello?
Hello, you're on the air.
Okay, I just wanted to say a couple things. For one thing, I really do like Letters in Politics with Mitch Jesuit. He has fabulous people that he interviews, and you get information about all sorts of things that you wouldn't get any other way. And sometimes I'm awake in the middle of the night, and it's just, what I really like is to turn on the radio and hear some interesting stuff. And but also, I was going to say something about, the electricity. You say that if you have the internet, you don't need the radio. Well, that's not true because you need electricity, and eventually you have to recharge your devices. Whereas, like, I have a landline, and so it doesn't run on regular electricity, so it'll work no matter what. But everybody doesn't have access to constant electricity. You might even have a generator and you have gasoline to put it in, but those energy sources are pretty finite in emergencies. So I think the most important thing is that we have access to KMUD and so live news and radio, what's going on in our community. I think that's very important.
Yep,
don't think that everybody has the internet, or that if you do have it, you don't need the other, because you do. You definitely. Yep. I really hope that KMUD can survive. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I will add to that I've been through many, I'm sure many have here too, is the emergency responses to fires, floods, et cetera. And I don't know how to put it, really. She hit the point exactly there. You have to be able to have that. And you really have to have both options for you, because if a transmitter goes down, antenna, say, you can still have the internet to get the signal to your transmitter. You can still broadcast. If the internet goes down, you still have the terrestrial. So there's having both of those. When we had the last fire, this is where I was going to go with this. We saw that it ran right up the hill and took out all of the commercial radio stations' hardline connections to the transmitter. So they were done during that fire. We saw it go right up and walk right around our transmitter for whatever reason. Someone got us, was on our side or something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Went right over to our big gas tank and exploded that, and was having a wonderful time burning lots of stuff down. We stayed on through the whole time because we were strictly terrestrial. So the fire couldn't do anything about the waves in the sky, and because it didn't decide to take the building out for whatever reason, we stayed on through the entire fire and were able to get emergency reports out. That was huge. The studio back in town was a different story. We had generators going through the windows and all kinds of things. But that, I think, is extremely important in those situations. So it's true. We don't say, you have radio, you don't need internet. You have internet, you don't need radio. They have to work hand in hand. And when I say internet, I'm including the phone on that, basically. The phone is your portal to the internet. So,
sure. And
if you can.
We are so sympathetic to people who just listen to broadcast radio, especially around here. But for those of you who do have internet, I know a lot of other grays like me, it took a while to shift over from listening to KMUD broadcast. I was getting a crappy reception in Garberville. So I started listening to the stream. Plus the stream was in stereo, and we weren't broadcasting in mono down here at that time. And then I realized, I don't have to listen to these shows when they were actually broadcast if I'm busy with something else. And so then I started to learn about the KMUD Audio Archive. All of the music programs can be listened to by streaming for 2 weeks after they are broadcast.
That's right.
And for at least 2 months, you can listen to any of the non-music programs, and you can download them as podcasts. So if you do have internet and you've missed a show, just think about that. You haven't really missed the show for at least a couple of weeks.
And that's thanks to technology, which sometimes we loathe, but it does come handy for us. Yeah, it's a great service to have that.
So, nowadays people are getting so into their smartphone. A lot of people may know me as a previous political candidate, which I haven't been since 2018. And a lot of that is because I think people have just tuned out of consensus reality. Cookies give you anything that you want on your phone. And I realized when I was a boy, the way they got me hooked on TV is all they had to do is make TV like 10 or 20% more interesting than what was happening in my neighborhood. And so if I decide, I get home from school, what do I want to do? Well, if the TV thing seems a little bit more interesting, I would watch TV. And that's how they developed me as a,
and I thought it was always weird that when I ran out with my Batman and threw him off a rock, it looked like a plastic model being thrown off a rock. And I just saw it on television, and Mattel promised me it would jump off and fly off the rock like the real Batman. But you're exactly right. You're watching that little enhanced version of, yes, I can buy the same toy I see on TV, but it's not going to be like it is on TV. It's TV, So they counted on that, and that slow erosion of that is a profound problem, and I do think it's important for us to keep it under control.
We've got another caller. Caller, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hey, I want to tell you a couple things. I live in Humboldt County. I cannot get a broadcast signal, KMUD, but I listen to KMUD all the time. So I really appreciate it, and I really do appreciate that you guys are streaming on the internet. Otherwise, I'd have to go 40 or 50 miles probably before I can listen to you.
Right.
And I also wanted to thank you. I really advocate for all the Rootsy programs you guys do, stuff that's coming out of the community. I think that KMUD is more than anything else really the voice of the community. And I think that the local programming, whether I agree with what people are saying or not, the fact that it's done just by regular people in the community, and it's not syndicated content from who knows where, I think that's extremely important. And my first career, when I was a young person with community radio, And everywhere I go, I listen to community radio everywhere in the United States, and I have traveled a lot. And I will tell you that, in my opinion and my experience, KMUD is the best community radio station I've ever heard. And I tell people all the time that KMUD is really a gem, and just simple things like, people don't know what it takes to produce 30 minutes of original news content 5 times a week. It's a big undertaking, and nobody does it anymore.
No, they don't.
KMUD. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's true what he's saying, and news has been a money suck for a long time for people's budgets, because you're paying someone to you're not getting any return from that, and so having so many of them just kind of abandon it or fill it with filler that they get from some news service. I'm so glad to see that Nat and the news department here, and the long history of the news department here at KMUD of being able to keep it real is going to continue, because even if it's boring real, it's real. It's, we don't have to soup it up. Just tell us what's happening. You know?
Right. One of the things that we're going to be doing, the KMUD Board of Directors, is we're going to have other programs, like maybe once a month, to introduce to you to this financial situation that we have to deal with. We're the ones who have the burden on our shoulders to make the decisions, whether it's finding new ways of bringing in money or making cuts. And we would like you to help us make those decisions. So we'll be presenting things, suggested cuts, and I will be the good cop, arguing that, no, we don't have to make that cut, because we are going to be pitching to raise that money so that those cuts don't have to be made. And a very important part for me is new supporters. We have been calling on you guys for 40 years, and we're asking you to give in more and more and more. And yes, we still would like you to do that. But also, we would like you to help us find new listeners. We're going to produce a flyer to go around to the different businesses, because there are new businesses here. And also, some real estate people have been telling me, there's a bunch of new people in Shelter Cove who have money. So if you're a Shelter Cove person, we want your ears, and we want your involvement in supporting this station, because it's not just a hippie radio station. This is truly a community radio station. And you can listen to Thank John Friday and hear the diversity of points of view that we allow expression, and to convey that expression all around the world. I know that there's an Earth First attorney in Alabama, and he has KMUD listed at the top of his page of favorite links.
Nice.
So bless you, Ned Mudd.
So yes, anyone who makes any use of this, please support it. And support this community. Even if you don't necessarily like anything about KMUD, it supports businesses, it supports other nonprofits. So maybe throwing us a few bucks just because it helps others that you like and support is enough. But that we're not making this stuff up. We where our situation is. And to be honest, I'd like to not be talking like this. I'd be rather talking about, let's reach our $500,000 budget that we now have because of all the ambitious endeavors we want to do, like the 6-person newsroom and the invitations to programmers to come. With the things we could do, the public affairs programs we could get done. All happens if we had tons of money, of course. I'm realistic. I know that community radio will always be struggling to a point, but let's think optimistically of what we want to build rather than what we're going to lose.
I do want to put out to you too. You can help us by making a selfie with your phone of either some experience you've had because of KMUD, something that KMUD did for you, or just something you really like about it. Make a little selfie with your phone, and you can email it to me, andy@kmud.org, and we will put some of these on the website, maybe all of them eventually, and we will also use the audio of them so that programmers can play members of this community, not just the people who are running the station and doing the programming, but everyday people telling each other why this station should be supported, and brainstorming more and more and more people to come up with the solutions to get us through this, because I do not think we're going to let KMUD fail. I got onto the board, and I know a couple of other people recently got on the board because we're going to keep KMUD afloat. That's just the bottom line. We're going to do it. You and I and Rich and everyone else, we're going to make this happen. And so we want to have your neural circuitry to help us come up with the most solutions. Okay, we got a couple more callers. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, well, thanks. I got a brainstorm for you.
Great.
But first, I wanted to say welcome, Rich.
Thank you.
Met you. I'm excited that you're there, and I wish you success.
Thank you very much.
Because your success is my success.
That's right. It's all of us win. Yep.
So I know where there's an endless replenishing pool of potential new listeners, right? And it's along the 101.
Mm-hmm.
And we cover hundreds of miles along the 101.
Yep.
And if we can get people who have no idea about us to tune in at the south end and the north end and can guide them into the dial, these are your car radio potential people that could be charmed and take it back to Texas, right?
Yep.
So what are you suggesting
I
we
know
do
Caltrans
besides
has
broadcast?
limitations on what they can do. There used to be the Burma Shave ads, but if we found landowners who were adjacent to the freeway, or if we advertised to the edge of the area, I'm not sure how that could go, but that's where I think we need to draw in new listeners, right?
KMUD billboards.
Burma Shave.
Yeah, I remember. I remember that. There's one of those things down in L.A. where there's like 100 miles of those kinds of signs. For those of you who don't know, they're repeated signs that you just keep seeing as you continue driving down the highway.
Well, yeah,
and they usually change a little bit.
One sign leads to the next, but now with LEDs and the potential for solar power and everything, you could actually have a 24-hour sweet little lit up, not too expensive display. But if it was legal with the highway department, right?
Right. Well, if you know of something like that, you meaning all the other listeners know about places like that we could set something up, let us know. Contact the station.
Yeah, because all I got is the brainstorming. But anyway, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Okay, we got another caller, and I think that's probably going to wrap it up for this show. Hi, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, it's Mark from McKinneyville. Thank you, Andy. You're one of my heroes. And I just want to say that I think, hopefully, I think that KMUD is revisioning itself, because I think by just keeping with its original thing, which is the radio station, it's not really valuing itself. It's really a media company that's doing training, and now it's online.
Yeah, it's a media, the location, rather than just radio.
Re-envision itself, and I'm just wondering if you have done an updated strategic plan. So I'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
We are going to be doing that.
Yes.
We've been very busy with a number of things, particularly staff-related, and we had to find an interim station manager, and we have all these financial things. So that is on our list of things that we are going to be working on in the next couple of months.
And in fact, prior to this show, I was discussing it with financials. So, yes.
Okay, so I guess that's it, Larry. We're just going to wrap up. I'm Andy Caffrey here with Rich Culbertson, who is our interim station manager, and this has been the Board of Directors, KMUD Board of Directors show. So we're looking forward to having your involvement, working with us being the staff and the board and all the volunteers and all the programmers who make this ship stay afloat. So here's to the SSKMUD, okay?
Right on.
Thanks,
Thank you very
everybody.
much.